Hello, this is my review for Dune Part 2, the 2024 film, starring Timothée Chalamet, Zendaya, Josh Brolin, Javier Bardem, Christopher Walken, Florence Pugh, Dave Bautista, Stellan Skarsgård, Austin Butler, Rebecca Ferguson, Leah Seydoux, sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, the woman who was in Spectre and No Time to Die, the French woman, and then the Asian guy who we see at the start of the film, who we see it in Doom Part One, the Fremen, who I don't know their names, and then the actors who are like involved with the Imperium, and then like the woman who's like speaks to Paul in Dune Part One, who's a member of the Bene Gesserit. Right, let's start with the story, the plot, and the themes. Let's try and start there. House Harkonnen has retaken Arrakis from House Atreides. The opening fight involves the Fremen attacking Harkonnen soldiers. Princess Irulan, we see her repeatedly talking with her father and talking about, like, she's got her monologues, which are kind of cool. She's like writing stuff, which is like basically her diary in a sense. Javier Bardem, Zendaya, and the Fremen are constantly debating if like Paul Atreides is the Messiah. Is he Lisan Al Gaib? Is he Modib? Is he the one that the like he's been made out to be? Paul Atreides accepts his new name. He gets given a new name. I think, sorry if I'm getting it slightly wrong. Ursula, or if my memory serves me correctly, I remember him. I more accurately remember him giving that speech where he says, "I am Paul Muad'Dib Atreides." That's the name that I've always kind of known for this main character in the Dune series. Lady Jessica becomes the Reverend Mother. Paul manages to tame the Grandad Sandworm. Austin Butler emerges not as one of Baron Harkonnen's nephews, not as Ray-Ban, but as the other one. I'm forgetting his name. Sorry, I just know him as Austin Butler. Right, is the other character's name. His introduction, not necessarily his introduction, but he has a big fight scene against the Asian dude in the Gladiator arena that was shot in like black and white. We see Dave Bautista, who's being told off repeatedly by Baron Harkonnen for Vladimir Harkonnen for his failure on the planet of Arrakis. Paul Atreides ends up traveling south on the sandworms through the storms to connect with all the other Sieches, all the other Fremen. Rebecca Ferguson, throughout the film, she's constantly talking to the baby. We get Paul's visions of the future, Paul's visions about what's going to happen. Paul's he's constantly either in touch with the future and in touch with the past. When he gives that grand speech to all the Fremen, he goes up to one guy and he basically tells him about his past, sort of as if he was like the three-eyed raven, or if he was like Professor X. Like, he's got an ability to like look into the past now and see things for what they truly are, which is really cool. We get many references to religion throughout the film. We get like Messiah constantly questioning, like, is Paul this figurehead, or is Zendaya, she's saying it should be the Fremen. She's like, the Fremen should liberate themselves. Paul challenges his cousin, Austin Butler, and it's a spoiler. This is a spoiler review. I probably should have said this at the start. Paul challenges his cousin and kills him in an epic fight with family ties revealed to House Harkonnen, to Baron Harkonnen. Paul offers to marry Princess Irulan. I want to talk about there's the nuclear bombs firing, the atomic warheads that Gurney Halleck shows Paul. The sandworms, the storms, the nuclear bombs I've already just mentioned. We get that epic scene of Paul with that really cool walk that he does, which is just epic. We get a fight scene between Gurney Halleck and Ray-Ban. We get Baron Harkonnen killing his two servants as Dave Bautista stands outside. He wants Baron Harkonnen wants spice production to increase and get back to normal. We get the scene with the baby sandworm and the blue liquid. There's that like, Well of Souls place. There's like, the reveal that the water is sacred. Sacred Water Place gets destroyed by the Imperialists, by Austin Butler's character. It gets destroyed by good old fashioned firepower. Paul marries Princess Irulan, and the Emperor kisses Paul's hand. Paul kills, as I've already said, Baron Harkonnen. He also kills Austin Butler's character. The reveal in the film, there's a north-south divide on Arrakis. There's a battle charge at the end. Princess Irulan's clothing. There's like a long take fight scene at one of the ships when they're ambushing it. We get Rebecca Ferguson constantly talking to herself and the baby. There's a fair bit of blood on the characters, which is interesting that this is rated 12. There's a lot of blood on the characters from time to time, which is quite interesting. There's no swearing. We get to see Paul and Zendaya doing like the sandwalk thing. And then we get like that funny line with like Josh Brolin where he says like blow the whole planet up. Oh, it's just a saying. That was kind of funny. Right. Now I'm gonna try and my mind's still processing this film from Saturday. I'm still trying to process it, so I'm just gonna start. Just that's me like basically giving like not necessarily a brief recap, but a sort of a recap. Might do another review for this film and clarify a few things and try and do maybe a shorter review because this review is probably going to be over 10, 12 minutes. I'm going to say this is a 10 out of 10 film. It's a 10 out of 10 film. It's probably the best film I've seen since 1917, in my opinion. I want to talk about the fantastic fight choreography between the ambush of the ship, the fight scene between Dave Bautista and Josh Brolin being incredibly quick, the fight scene between Austin Butler and Paul Muad'Dib Atreides, Timothée Chalamet, fantastic fight choreography, interesting themes and commentary and questions of like going back to religious metaphors and explanations of like the one to lead the Fremen into freedom. Is it Paul? Is it this off-worlder when Zendaya saying it should be the Fremen that liberate the Fremen? If she's like, she doesn't think a foreigner should be the one that does it. That was interesting. That was intriguing. And then like Javier Bardem's like a full-on believer. He really does believe that Paul Atreides is the one, which is kind of an interesting nice contrast between them. We get a great scene, a great score by Hans Zimmer. He's a fantastic composer. He does a great job. I love the fact that the film felt raw, not just the fight scenes, but it was just a feeling of like the way that they were talking, the way that they were carrying themselves. Everything had this raw feeling, if you know what I'm trying to say with that. It just felt. Denis Villeneuve's great at capturing realism in his films, and this is another example of it. It was just a feeling of like he captured it in its purest form, if you know what I'm trying to say, which was just brilliant in my opinion. Beautiful imagery. They filmed this film in the UAE and Jordan. They filmed part of it in Italy, if I'm correct. And I think that they obviously then filmed a few of the sandworm scenes on green screens. Obviously, like I imagine the set design, the production design, the costume design, that was all fantastic as well. The set design, like for the sandworms, I imagine like the concrete, the floor was real, but then obviously the outer majority of it was CGI, if I had to guess. Obviously, of course, not guessing there. Obviously, it's sandworm. Obviously, the baby sandworm was clearly real. That was a really cool scene. That was a fantastic prop design. Fantastic, like once again, costume design, set design, production design. Fantastic. Visual effects were 10 out of 10. The sound editing and sound design were superb. I saw this film in IMAX. I'm planning on seeing it again. Most likely not in IMAX. But seeing this film in IMAX was worth it. Absolutely worth it. Outstanding world building and adding to the lore. Like the way in which like they just added constantly to the mythology and the story. Just fantastic. I just thought the world felt lived in. Like when you look at a film like Fantastic Beasts, to me everything in that world is just too squeaky clean. Way too squeaky clean. Everything here feels lived in, feels dirty, it feels, just use that word again, feels raw. Use that word again. Phenomenal acting by everyone. I liked Javier Bardem, I liked Josh Brolin, I liked Dave Bautista, Stellan Skarsgård, Zendaya, Austin Butler. They were all fantastic. Timothée Chalamet ran away with it. Timothée Chalamet ran away with it. There's a scene in this film where he gives a speech and it is just excellent. Just brilliant. Just phenomenal. Everything you're seeing on screen is just absolutely fantastic. The lighting was also superb. Fantastic lighting. That's something that I just want to, just brilliant. The atmosphere. I thought the atmosphere was solid. Denis Villeneuve's great at that. Sicario, Blade Runner 2049, Dune Part 1. He's great at creating an excellent atmosphere, and he's done this again. Fantastic. Brilliant there. This film, to me, is both great at being a continuation of Part 1, and it's excellent at standing on its own. Denis Villeneuve's done both at the same time, which is quite an accomplishment. That is truly an accomplishment, and I want to say just exceptional storytelling by Denis Villeneuve. I feel like I'm probably forgetting a few things that I should definitely be talking about, but just excellent overall, just fantastic. Paul Moadib Atreides, the scene where he's standing looking at the atomic bombs, the scene where he gives that speech and he raises his knife to his forehead and he says, "Long live the fighters," and everybody else does it. Fantastic. Josh Brolin reuniting with Timothée Chalamet in that scene, that was fantastic. He's like, "Oh, the young pup." Fantastic. To me, just an excellent film. It is the best film I've seen since 1917. The best film I have seen since 1917. I'm probably going to do another review for this film when I rewatch it. I'm going to rewatch it a few times, most likely in theatres, because I'm wanting to see this film again in theatres. Because it's one of those films I think you need to see in theatres. I'm pretty sure I've covered everything that I've written down here. Rebecca Ferguson's like constantly talking to the baby. That was just like creepy. That was really creepy in my opinion. I just gave like a bit of a... She's trying to convert the unbelievers. That Paul Atreides, her son, is the Messiah. I love Paul's outbursts at times when he starts screaming and he yells at his mother. He yells at Gurney Halleck. He yells at the Bene Gesserit woman. He just gives out these violent outbursts that it's just powerful, fantastic. I'm going to maybe mention, I don't know if you consider it a negative. I wouldn't consider it a negative per se because it's a timeless theme. Avatar, Dances with Wolves, and Dune similarities. And I suppose in this regard, it would be Avatar and Dances with Wolves that took inspiration from Dune, because Dune came out in 1965. The book came out in 1965. There's like some similarities, and like Avatar, that's the most recent one that's coming to mind. I need to rewatch Dances with Wolves, but I can remember Dances with Wolves having a fair bit of similarities with Avatar. Avatar, there's like the main character comes from above. They proclaim him to be like a quasi-messianic figure. He leads the natives against this imperialist colonial empire sort of thing, sort of entity. He tames the biggest bird, Maruk Tmokto, sorry if I'm getting that slightly wrong, something like that. And then Paul Atreides tames the granddad sandworm. We see a love story between like Paul Atreides and Zendaya, similar like Sam Worthington and Zoe Saldana. Paul Atreides was